Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier, and thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it. Just to mention Charles's Mindspeak, and also to mention the presentation I made to Oracle about staying ahead of the curve. That's on Rich Wrap-Ups if you care to have a look. I'm still stuck with Don DeLillo and Point Omega. If you reveal everything, bear every feeling, ask for understanding, you lose something crucial to your sense of yourself. You need to know things that others don't know. It's what no one knows about you that allows you to know yourself. And then I came across an article in The Guardian, which I agreed with. The truth is that Don DeLillo is wired into contemporary America from the ground up, spookily attuned to the weird vibrations of popular culture and the buzz of everyday, ordinary conversations on bus and subway, has devoted his writing to the shadow side of American life, painting a dysfunctional freaks gallery of the wrecked David Bell in Americana, the sick Bill Gray in Mao 2, the mad Lee Harvey Oswald in Libra, and the suicidal Eric Packer in Cosmopolis. In White Noise, the protagonist Jack, who teaches Hitler studies, riffs hilariously on death and mass murder. It is said that DeLillo used to keep two files on his writing table labeled Art and Terror. In Mao 2 he writes, I used to think it was possible for an artist to alter the inner life of the culture. Now bomb makers and gunmen have taken that territory. On some readings his characters occupy this no man's land. His vision has been described as paranoid in the sense that it connects everything about his society. In the process of exploring America, DeLillo has become credited with extraordinary powers of literary clairvoyance. The war on terror is said to be foreshadowed in Mao 2. The planes that flew into the Twin Towers are possibly alluded to on the cover of Underworld. Parts of White Noise are echoed in the anthrax scare of 2001. More of a novella or a long short story, Point Omega, which I finished last night, is a fragment of classic DeLillo, apparently rooted in time and place, 2006, late summer, early fall. This was when DeLillo went to New York's Museum of Modern Art to see Douglas Gordon's installation, 24-Hour Psycho, a video work that slows down every frame of Hitchcock's thriller into a 24-hour cycle. Immediately it hooked the writer's imagination. Time and death, he remarks with some satisfaction. It's the ultimate vision of an artist at the end of everything. It's just what's there. It was not something I planned to do. And a couple of other comments from Point Omega. The true life is not reducible to words spoken or written, not by anyone, ever. It's all embedded, the hours and minutes, words and numbers, everywhere, he said. Train stations, bus routes, taxi meters, surveillance cameras. It's all about time, dimwit time, inferior time, people checking watches and other devices, other reminders. This is time draining out of our lives. Cities were built to measure time, to remove time from nature. There's an endless counting down, he said. When you strip away all the surfaces, when you see into it, what's left is terror. This is the thing that literature was meant to cure, the epic poem, the bedtime story. I'll put a photograph of the evening clouds I took a couple of evenings ago. Political reflections, let's start with, of course, the China National People's Congress. This is, of course, held in Beijing, and if you want an example of the multipolar world, and this is it. And I'll also put up another photograph of Chinese police searching Tiananmen Square before the start of the National People's Congress. Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE recalled their ambassadors to protect security and stability, the countries said in a joint statement on the website of the official Saudi press agency. The decision follows a Gulf foreign ministers meeting in Riyadh yesterday, which failed to convince Qatar to implement an accord that stops support for anyone who threatens the security and stability of GCC countries. Gulf countries have been critical of Qatar's support for the Muslim Brotherhood. Last month, the UAE summoned Qatar's ambassador and issued a letter of protest in response to criticism by Doha-based cleric Yusuf al-Qaradawi, who has close ties with Qatari royals and has expressed support for the Muslim Brotherhood. This has to deal with Qatar's continued support for the Muslim Brotherhood. Members and supporters of the Islamic group are criticizing GCC countries from Doha. Stock market fell sharply on that announcement. And of course, the Muslim Brotherhood is a fault line in Sunni Islam, in the monolith that's Sunni Islam. And Qatar is falling on the wrong side of that line. And I'm afraid my friend Peter Grest is an innocent in this Muslim Brotherhood, Al Jazeera, Qatar versus the rest of the GCC, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt fault line. And on that note, I'm going to put up a photograph that Nick Clark tweeted of Peter in court. And it really is an arresting and frightening photograph. He's a dear friend. Gunfire erupted at a major military base in the South Sudanese capital, Juba, on Wednesday after troops mutinied over unpaid salaries, which is in itself an indication of worsening economic strife. The fighting appeared to subside after more than 2 hours. U.S. Embassy in Juba advised residents to stay indoors. Witnesses said that thick smoke could be seen billowing over the base known as Gaida, located near Juba Airport. We urge everyone to stay safe and remain indoors. We will continue to monitor the situation and provide updates. And then the Ugandans are saying the airport is functioning normally. We have heightened our vigilance. And I wrote that piece, South Sudan's oil cut-off, brilliant negotiating or suicide, on January the 30th, 2012. And I said then, I have to surmise that the US is underwriting Salva's overdraft. What with all these demobilized soldiers roaming around Juba, it would be suicide to have them unpaid for any length of time. Coming to Ukraine and Pepe Escobar's, I tweeted, I said straight away when I listened to what Putin was saying, that it already was rather clever to turn the R2P mantra into a positive for his argument about the protection of Russians in Crimea. And this was picked up by Pepe Escobar, who said what he left the door open for is, a cosmic irony of ironies, an American invention, and that predictably was undetectable by Western corporate media, UN's R2P, responsibility to protect. And according to Pepe, the endgame is all but written. Moscow controls an autonomous Crimea for free, and the US-EU control Western Ukraine. Hillary Clinton, said Putin was trying to re-Sovietize the periphery of Russia. Well, he has to draw a red line, otherwise the periphery will erode at speed. And then counterpunch, I came across this, which I agree with, and this is, I think, based on the Oda-Ninon plan, of which I've spoken about before, the general strategy of provoking separatism in order to overthrow competing circles of influence. The US and UK support Chechen moves for independence based on the vision of a liberated region of the Caspian Sea. This vision has been thwarted by Putin's devastating grip on Chechnya, as well as Moscow's involvement on behalf of Abkhazia and South Ossetia during the Russia-Georgia War of 2008. The outcome of the Kremlin's maneuvers has secured Russia's energy corridor from Central Asia into Europe through Ukraine. Syria under Assad seeks to become a four seas hub uniting the Caspian, Black Sea, Persian Gulf, and Mediterranean. Currently, Russia dominates the Caspian Sea and holds the weight of power in the Black Sea after grabbing the Crimea. With Assad's Syria in place, the Kremlin has a strong foothold in the Mediterranean as well. And this was interesting. Enormous enclosures do not come without a price. The growing global tumult is a symptom of the global land grab. The expropriation of land and resources by competing international powers to suit the needs of a rapidly expanding global consumer culture. As China and Russia broaden the belt around Asia, the impotence of the US's strategy of aiding fascists, Islamists, and separatists in attempts to liberate natural resources and infrastructure becomes apparent. This is why Russia crossed an important Rubicon in the Crimea. Not only have they proved that they aren't bluffing in Syria, but they have exposed proxy wars by engaging in open conflict, thus heightening the visibility of the interconnected and ongoing game of global domination. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the Western-backed government in Kiev no longer rules over Crimea, saying control has shifted to armed self-defense groups. Secretary of State John Kerry warned Russia against violating very clear legal obligations to uphold Ukraine's unity. From Politico, I got this headline: the West is blinking in disbelief. Vladimir Putin just invaded Ukraine. He's been a winner for a while, and I agree with the Times in that respect. And really, Sevastopol is a red line. He loses that, he's no longer a great power. Euro 137.24. I don't, for one, expect the ECB to do anything today. Dollar index 80.17, touched 80.272, which was a week high. Japanese yen soft at 102.73, touched 102.76, the weakest since February 21. Swiss franc 0.8888. Pound 167.12. I gave a buy signal on the 12th of August 2013 when I said you need to be net long. Sterling at that time were around 153. Aussie 0.9016. Longest winning streak this year, up about 1% this week. Exports from Australia exceeded imports by 1.43 billion Aussie dollars in January, and that's the most since August 2011. Retail sales increased 1.2%. India rupee 61.42, so strong. South Korean won 1065.15. The rial 232.04, so strength in the higher beta currencies. Egyptian pound 696.13, and the rand's 1069.26. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index. Still, we're not getting any upside traction. Euro dollar, I'll put up a 3-month chart of that. Euro area GDP grew 0.3% in the 3 months through December, but that was in line with expectations. Dollar yen 102.73. I still think we could get a lot of strengthening in the yen. Counterintuitive, counter trend. Sterling, I'll put up a 3-month chart of that. You can see what kind of extraordinary bull run it's had. And I said on the 12th of August, the recovery in the West is not a mirage, it is real. How does an investor play this recovery? I think you need to be net long sterling. The chart of the day for Bloomberg compares Tencent's 1,246% advance in Hong Kong trading since March 2009. And it compares the rallies in Microsoft, Cisco, Intel before their stocks peaked 14 years ago. Hiroshi Mikitani, Chief Executive Officer of the Japanese e-commerce company Rakuten, aims to expand to 2 billion users with his acquisition of messaging service Viber Media Inc. Growth for Viber's free messaging and internet calling app is already accelerating. It's adding 600,000 users daily, up by about 50,000 from February the 14th when the deal was announced. Viber had about 300 million users at the time of the deal. And the goal is to reach 1 billion, 2 billion users, not to stop yet, Mikitani said in Tokyo yesterday. We're planning to increase to 1 million additional users every day. That means 365 million a year. Maybe in 2 or 3 more years we can get there. Commodity markets, gold is still around this level of 1336.985. I think it's expensive. Crude oil, finally started to crack, fell at last trading at 101.10. WTI for April delivery dropped to as low as 100.86 in electronic trading. Contract lost $1.88 yesterday, lowest settlement since Feb 14. It had gotten overcooked big time. The US cold snap in Ukraine squeezed the price. Equilibrium price, I reckon, is $19. Coffee tops $2 and surged to two-year high on Brazil drought woes. Futures for Arabica beans, favored by specialty companies such as Starbucks, up 83% this year. Last year, coffee tumbled 23%. Limited rains in Brazil have made the size of this year's crop a moving target. It's not easy to just turn on the switch and start producing more. Arabica coffee for May delivery jumped 9.1% to settle at $2.02. This is the highest since March 2012. Robusta futures for May delivery have climbed 23% this year. Raw sugar as well gained 2.8% and higher since November 6th. Brazil accounts for 37% of global coffee output, 46% of Arabica, and its share of sugar is 22%. I'll put up a 3-month chart of coffee, you can see what I mean. It's been an outstanding bull move. Coming to Africa, Niger has extradited Muammar Gaddafi's son Saadi, who just arrived in Tripoli, the Libyan government said on Thursday. Libya had been seeking the extradition of Saadi, who had fled to the southern neighbor country after the toppling of Gaddafi in a NATO-backed uprising in 2011. The Libyan government received today Saadi Gaddafi, and he arrived in Tripoli, the cabinet of Prime Minister Ali Zaidan said in a statement. I'll put up a photograph of him and then refer you back to that article I wrote on the 24th of October 2011, Gaddafi's body in a freezer, what's the message? And I said, I'm left thinking this dead Gaddafi business is one powerful message. And today, Marshall McLuhan's prediction in the Gutenberg Galaxy of 1962 that the new electronic interdependence recreates the world in the image of a global village has come to pass. The image of a bloodied Gaddafi, then of a dead Gaddafi in a meat locker, flashed around the world via the mobile, YouTube, Twitter. Who is in charge of the messaging, I asked. Through the fog of real-time and raw footage, I note a very powerful message. The essence of that message being, and then you have to go and read that piece, but it's on Rich Wrap-Up, so I'll put a photograph of Muammar Gaddafi at the beginning and Muammar Gaddafi at the end, and mention sic transit gloria mundi is a Latin phrase that means thus passes the glory of the world. It's been interpreted as meaning worldly things are fleeting as well. 4 members of the border police died and 5 were wounded as a result of an attack by armed men from Renamo on Sunday morning in the district of Gorongosa. The local paper said the ambush took place 60 kilometers from the Gorongosa Mountains in central Sofala province. Of course, Renamo's leader, Alfonso Dhlakama, is believed to be held up in those mountains. And I'll put up a photograph of him outside his hut on April 10th, 2013 in those mountains. And, refer you back to yesterday's comment that I picked up that, Renamo in the bush and Renamo in Maputo might not be on the same page. The South African all shares up 3.09% in 2014. Standard Bank just reported results, so we should see how that behaves. I thought those results were better than expected, though described as satisfactory by the CEO. In particular, what I like was the accelerating rest of Africa trend. Dollar rand 1068.61. I'll put up a 3-month chart of that. This is near the top end of its recent trading range. Egyptian pound 695.87. Egyptian stock market, Africa's best, up 18.39% this year and back above 8,000. The Nigeria all shares minus 5.06% so far this year, and I think there are headwinds in Nigeria which are not going to abate just yet. Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan appointed an experienced former army general from the Muslim North as his defense minister on Wednesday as he looks to combat an increasingly bloody Islamist insurgency there. Jonathan handed out portfolios to 10 other ministers on Wednesday, filling vacancies mostly created after he fired 11 ministers last September, a move analysts said was aimed at making room for figures who will be more adept at fighting what will be a closely contested election next year. The Ghana Stock Exchange is up 12.84% in 2014, but bear in mind, we've suffered some erosion via currency losses. According to 2013 figures, each year East African countries import goods from Turkey worth $813 million, while the region's annual export volume to Turkey reached $160 million. Interestingly, Turkish Airlines currently conducting flights to 35 destinations in 25 African countries. And I thought that's quite interesting. They made a big play. Of course, Somalia was where the Prime Minister came, and they're flying direct flights, I believe, to Mogadishu still. Congo halts mining expansion projects amid electricity shortage. The DRC, Africa's biggest copper producer, told miners to halt any project expansion requiring more power amid a shortage that will take years to resolve, according to government documents. The country will institute an electricity rationing program for miners, and you can clearly see that they're now running against the limit and capacity constraint of the country. Of course, people have been wanting to do the hydropower project of the Inga Dam for years, and that will solve everything, I suppose. Coming to Kenya, 2 offers now mean investors must consider whether they should take Ria Trading's lower bid of 70 shillings and hang on for the extra 15 shillings that they're promising on the disposal of some land, or take 75 shillings in the hand from Chris Garubi. Ria Vipinga has been frozen. I think on balance, the offer from Ria Trading is obviously better. Kenya readied riot police yesterday as strike caused gridlock. There was some pretty aggressive language came out of the traffic commandant, Edward Mamburi. Strikes have reached a level that we're getting concerned, and the likelihood is that we're going to send in riot police because they are now blocking major intersections. Everyone should take caution. A lot of drama yesterday, as I told you. It took me 2.5 hours to get to work. It took me nearly an hour today, so it hasn't completely calmed down. I'll put up a photograph I took yesterday of the view towards town from my 8th floor office. Nairobi has ousted Lagos as Africa's most expensive capital. This is the latest news from the Economist Intelligence Unit, saying consumer good prices linked to new taxation measures propelled the Kenyan capital to the top spot on the continent. Kenya shilling is at 86.597. The Nairobi All Shares up 2.54% in 2014. The NSE 20 is down 0.49% in 2014. There's a link on Rich Wrap-Ups if you want to check any share, any results. We've had a lot. I'm up to date so far. Africa's 4th largest lake could drop by 220 meters, causing an ecological and human disaster to rival the shrinking of the Aral Sea in Central Asia if Ethiopia goes ahead with massive irrigation projects linked to a giant dam. According to a university paper, I'll put up a photograph of a fisherman cleaning his catch in Lake Turkana. Obviously it's the Juba 3 dam project that will devastate Lake Turkana, I'm afraid. Once again, thank you for stopping by. If you care to track the stock market in real time, just register on rich.co.ke, get a password, go to Rich Live. Any problems, get hold of us on Twitter or on email. Once again, I deeply appreciate the fact that you take time to come by and stop by. I am grateful for that.